They like swiped. They both swiped right. And they chatted a while, but they didn't meet. And then they both were at like a house party, like a costume party, and they recognized each other from Tinder. And that's how they met and like started dating. He was living with Sam and knew that she was out doing this hike. So Kevin was waiting for her to call. Because she never called, it got to be later and later in the evening. And he wasn't getting a hold of her on her phone. It was going to voicemail, all that. So Kevin got in his car and drove the hour and 45 minutes to the trailhead at Vesper Peak, which he, like Sam, was super familiar with because they had done the hike many times. It was getting dark, so he stopped at a gas station to buy a flashlight, which there's all kinds of theories in this case. If you look this up, there's Reddit thread after entire websites dedicated to like the mysterious disappearance of Sam Sayers. One of the things, which I don't want to get anything in your head in particular, and I'll tell you which theory I believe at the end, but I find it amusing that he was an experienced hiker and knew how difficult this hike was, and he didn't think to bring like a flashlight or anything when it was dark out and he was going to go see like if she was there.
And I mean, yeah, but I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yes,
It might,
do.
if you're just, oh shit, I need to go find my girlfriend, like you don't think about grabbing all that stuff.
That's true.
Like there are times I've literally gotten in my car to come record and I'm like, oh, I should run back in and grab my notebook to record. Like,
yes.
You just kind of don't think about things. And if you're frantic, you know, you think even less.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So he did stop to buy a flashlight on the way. He was like, oh shit, I need a flashlight. Kevin pulled up to the trailhead and saw Sam's blue Ford Fiesta was in the parking lot. And that made him really nervous. Again, for a hiker, it wasn't a long hike. She should have been done.
Wonder why you wouldn't call the cops at this point, though.
Yeah. So what he does is it's now 10 p.m., which he was supposed to hear from her like around 3 or 4, and they were supposed to meet at 6. It's 10 p.m. It's dark out now. He takes the flashlight and he starts to go up the trailhead to look for her.
Yeah, maybe he just thought she had like fell and rolled her ankle and her phone died or something.
Yes. He made it to the top of the summit. In the dark alone would have been a very dangerous hike because it's still considered technical and difficult in the daytime. And it was starting to get cold because in the Pacific Northwest, even when you have a hot day, the temperature plummets, unlike other places.
Phoenix.
Unlike Phoenix or some places on the East Coast and the South, it gets really cold at night. So Kevin made it nearly the top, but as he was like about to get to the summit, which he didn't know this, but Sam had come down from the summit. She wasn't up there. He fell because it was dark and he broke his flashlight and like couldn't find the pieces. And so all he had was this phone light left. And so he's really nervous all of a sudden because then all he would have is moonlight. And that's terrifying. And
at that point, you're just sleeping out there and waiting for daylight.
Yeah. But he didn't have any cold weather gear. He didn't bring anything. Yeah. And there's bears and stuff out there. Like it's the woods.
Yeah.
So it was only a half full moon too. So the light would not have been sufficient. So he just like rushed back down the mountain calling Sam. Like he did that on the way up and the way down. He made it back to his car and he drove to the Verlo Public Service Center 20 miles away. And this was a place that had Forest Service rangers, but it was closed because now it was like close to 1 a.m. Like it was late. There was only a payphone out front and he didn't have cell service or his phone may have died. And so he called 911 on the payphone. And Kevin tells the 911 operator that, hey, my girlfriend is missing. She was doing this hike. She didn't have cold weather gear or a headlamp. But she had packed. He was like really detailed. He was like, she packed 3 or 4 sandwiches. She packed snacks. She loves snacks. Like all this stuff. And he said, I had a flashlight and I was this is a quote. He said, I had my flashlight going, banging, screaming, no word. I think she's hurt. So that's what he told the 911 operator. Kevin stayed at the Verlo station and Sergeant John Q. Adams arrived around 1:30 a.m. So Kevin was ready to get back on the trail and search like now. Like he was like, we have to go back out there. She's hurt. I know it. But the sergeant was like, well, we can't. It's too dark. Like we can't. We wouldn't get anywhere. And so the search commenced at dawn, or right after dawn. It was like 6 a.m. So there were tons of teams that went to different trails calling out Sam's name. This search was like the biggest search, I believe, in Washington state history. It was insane. So even on day 1, they had a helicopter using infrared or thermal cameras, to look for heat. They didn't see anything. However, there's tons of trees and stuff like that. Finally, they found a tree that had been set on fire, a single tree. So like, oh, maybe it's a signal fire. But they got to it and there was nobody there. Sam wasn't near it and nobody was, and they put the tree out. This was 2018 and the forest fires in the Pacific Northwest were brutal. And there were fires everywhere, so it could have also been a natural fire. Like, they're not sure. So by the next couple days, 5 counties had sent experienced search teams to help. Oregon sent the Air Force pararescue personnel. The Navy came out. Like, It was huge.
Yeah.
Like they sent people from all over the Pacific Northwest. They had trained scent dogs, professional like human trackers who were looking for footprints, clothing, granola bar wrappers, like literally anything. They searched the caves around the mountain. They searched the lakes. They searched everywhere that they physically could. And they even had drones out. Like it's like the case that I had before of the guy who was lost in the canyon. Like they had everything out there and there's just nothing. So Kevin then posted on Facebook the next day, SOS, SOS, need help ASAP. Missing. Samantha Sayers, please hurry. And that's how Sam's mom found out that her daughter was missing. And Sam and her mom were really close. Her mom lived in Pennsylvania, but they like talked all the time. And like I always feel like weirdly voyeuristic. I don't love it, but I usually go look on the Facebook profiles of people to see what I can find. And there are photos and photos of her with Sam. Like they were obviously like really close. So
that's a terrible way to find that out.
Yeah. She saw Kevin's post and she had met Kevin, but they didn't know each other that well because she lived in another state. So the AFRCC, which is the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center.
It is weird with that big of a search going on that police or someone wouldn't have called the mom, though. That's very weird. Like that.
Yeah. Nobody called her family.
Yeah.
They started looking through Sam's cell phone data and they saw one ping mid-afternoon on August 1st, the day of the hike, near the summit. But that was it until it pinged in Belltown. They immediately thought maybe she got lost and then found a ride and hitchhiked, like, went down.
Oh, that's away from the peak.
Yeah, in Belltown where she lived.
Yeah.
So police were dispatched to Sam and Kevin's apartment because it came from there. And they were like, she's in her apartment.
Her phone was?
Well, no, that's what I thought too. It turns out Kevin's mom, Dawn, came from New Orleans to help. And she had been working with the AFRCC for cell data, and they cloned Sam's phone. I didn't know you could do this onto Dawn's to get any information because her phone had died. So they figured out a way to clone all of Sam's phone into Dawn's phone. And Dawn's phone pinged, but it registered as Sam's because her phone held two data points.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. Because at first I was like, the boyfriend did it. He did it. For his phone is.
I was like, case closed. You just told us the answer.
Yeah. At this time, Kevin started going by Sam's fiance because he wanted people to take their relationship more seriously. And he felt like they were more than boyfriend, girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, he was publicly like started being Sam's fiance.
That seems weird to me. Not suspicious weird, but just weird.
It's unusual. It's a little unusual. So the search continued for 22 days with the like Air Force, Navy, blah, blah, blah. And Kevin was there every single day, all day. Sam's family never came out to search. And I'll get into that a little bit. So it ended at 22 days. Nothing was found. Not a trace. Not
her bag or clothes or anything.
Nothing. Kevin posted photo after photo after photo of GPS collected data of areas he and others had searched into November and December. If you go to his Facebook page, there are probably 100 different maps that he made that, nope, nothing here. Nope, nothing here. He went out in the snow.
He didn't do it.
Like
definitely did not do it.
He and Sam were like a little new agey, I guess. So they had like psychics and mediums weigh in and they followed all of those leads and looked. The police also didn't rule out foul play. Like nothing was ruled out at all. There was literally no sign of her. She vanished off the face of the earth. So some footsteps were found and they thought they were hers, but later it turns out they weren't. A page was made to donate to for the search because Kevin rented helicopters. He rented like,
wow.
Yeah. And so it was a ton of money and they raised over $1 million for her search effort. And Kevin himself spent over 100 days on the trails, sometimes living on them, like camping on them to try to find her. Tons and tons of leads came in. All sorts of stuff like sightings of Sam in parts of the state. People were like, I saw Sam here in a Walmart, which was, for some reason, people kept thinking they saw her in Walmarts. It was a thing. One woman thought that her brother-in-law had abducted Sam because he was weird and on vacation there at the same time Sam went missing. And she always thought he was like a serial killer or something. And so she's still like sure like that he was out on the trail that day and abducted her. But again, that's just like one woman who knows? She told the police that one reason she thought this was because one time she borrowed her brother-in-law's car and that it smelled like semen and dead bodies. I was like, what? That doesn't. That sounds like speculation, ma'am.
I'm just like making a disgusted face.
It's gross. So Lisa, that's Sam's mom. Lisa had her own investigation going. She hired her own people, like a PI, like all this stuff. For some reason, she like wasn't kosher with what Kevin's family was doing and the searches that were happening. And it was hard to find information because in every article I read, it said Lisa Sayers declined to comment on when we reached out to her. Like, and that's how it's been for everything. A lot of people think that Kevin's suspicious in some of his things, like the fiance thing they said. People think, I couldn't find the 911 recording. I know they're public information, but apparently you have to have like a timestamp or something. I don't know. I couldn't find them. But people said they thought they heard a woman's voice in the back of his 911 call. But then the sergeant came not that long after. So that seems weird.
I mean, sure. I mean, you're going to get to theories. Of course, there's a chance he could have done it. You could say, he would have known where to put her. Like, yeah. So this past August, it was a year after she vanished, and Kevin and her friends and his friends held a memorial for her on Vesper Peak. They brought a beautiful custom-made wrought iron and copper cross to place on the peak that said Queen of the Stars, Sam Sayers, and then it has her birthday on it. It's really pretty. He also wrote a really lovely poem and posted like a long Facebook post about the memorial and the poem. The one thing that Lisa Sayers did say was that she didn't want anything to do with that. I don't know if she's suspicious of Kevin or not, and it would be speculation for me to say whether or not she is. But it could be her child is missing. Like it could be for any number of reasons. But
she didn't. She doesn't want anything to do with like what Kevin has been doing. Other theories are that she went up to the top to commit suicide, which is just that's always like a throwaway theory. Like that could be one for any.
If you don't know what it is, they committed suicide. Yeah,
yeah. With any missing person, maybe she wanted to go missing. Yeah. Like okay, fine. You have to. Of course, you have to rule that out. But if she had, they likely would have found a body because they searched everywhere. The only place they couldn't search was because they got later into the year because they're covering the entire area, not even just Vesper Peak, but like all the surrounding areas. And some of it had become ice. So they're wondering if maybe she fell into this like
a
crag. Yeah. And it's now filled with ice, but they can't search till that ice is depleted. That's essentially where it's at. The thing that seems like what happened is that she fell and injured herself and she didn't have the right gear to be in cold weather and got hypothermia or something. Now, maybe not because she would have removed her clothing because that's what you do in a case of hypothermia most of the time because you feel actually really hot when you're dying of freezing. The other thing, which this is so sad, but could be, when you look at her Instagram, it's still up. She loved taking selfies on cliffs. It was like a thing. And we know how dangerous that can be.
Yeah.
You just do one wrong footing and off the ledge. So some people speculate that. A lot of people think she was abducted because there's no trace of her at all. And you'd think if you were on a cliff, you would have seen her somewhere at the bottom.
Right. That's what makes me stop in my tracks is they would have found you'd think they would have found a body by now.
Not a scrape. They even had human trackers and dogs for her scent.
Right. No blood, like nothing.
So they think maybe someone kidnapped her from the trail, or maybe she got back down to her car and someone pulled her in.
Yeah.
Something like that, which I think it's either she was abducted or she fell somewhere so deep and everything fell with her and it's frozen. Yeah. Those are like the only two options that I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Those are the only two options.
Yeah. But we'll probably never know.
Poor girl.
I know. She's only, and her birthday was in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks from that. It was like almost her birthday, for her 20th birthday. And
yeah, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. When I read it, I was just like, how do I not know about this? Samantha Sayers. I highly recommend looking up more because there's info until the cows come home.
Yeah. Man, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Shall we grab another beer?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, beer. I was like, just going to start my case. I have for you today a beer from Big Sky Brewing Company in Montana, which is what we just had, but it's a different beer. It's called Shake a Day IPA.
That is not what we just had.
It's not.
We had Ska Brewing in Durango, Colorado. Ska? Big Ska.
I take that back.
It's fine.
I don't always pay attention when Sarah talks.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, hello, are you listening?
This is a Shake a Day IPA with dice on the front. The dice are all at 6.
How many 6s are there?
5.
You had to count with your fingers?
Give me your glass.
Cheers.
This is very similar to the first beer.
It's just not, it's not fruity at the head.
I like it. It's
too.
good. It's very bitter. Again, it's very bitter. If you don't like IPAs, you will not like this. This is an IPA for IPA people.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's slightly hazy, but if you don't like hazies, that shouldn't fool you. Because I don't love hazies and I